Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. I'm debating on what we're gonna do today. I cleaned the floor. That's what I've accomplished this morning. I swept the floor. Here's the thing. I want to bring a planter in. I really want to bring a 24-row corn planter in. Our tractor is not done. It's not going to be ready today, so it's not going to happen today. It's supposed to rain the next 2 days. I'm not driving that tractor home or bringing the planter home in the rain with wet roads, so it's probably Friday at the earliest before we're going to get it here, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. It might even be next week yet. So, what am I going to do the rest of the week if I don't have a corn planter in the shop to work on? Probably better bring a bean planter in the shop and work on that instead. So, I was all ready to go and do that, and then I realized that the fold box for the bean planter is in the 8R. The 8R is at the John Deere dealer getting a steering cylinder seal fixed. Crap. So I can get it into the shop. I cannot unfold it, which is a bit of a bummer. I mean, it'll be okay. We can manage that and make it work, but it would have been nice to get it unfolded. So I think I'm gonna have to pull it in the shop here and just unhook it because I can't leave the tractor hooked up. It'll be too long to get the door shut. And we'll do what we can. We might have to wash it a little bit, get the dust off of it. We'll see what kind of shape it looks like it's in once we get it in here as far as cleanliness goes. And then we can start pulling gauge wheels, maybe some openers, taking a look at stuff, seeing what all we got to do. I think that's the plan. Okay, I am fairly confident we will get the planter out of there all right. We got plenty of room between the cart and the bean planter there. We're going to use the 8430, so we got to unbury that. We might have to move this tractor in order to be able to make the swing and the turn here. So we got a lot of shuffling to do and seeing what's going to start. Then we need to get our sweeper out here and clean our floor up and reorganize the whole barn. Mid-30s today, and I did not plan ahead enough to have anything plugged in. Let's see if she starts. Brock didn't put it in park. Let's try again. Oh boy. Yeah, it's gonna start. Alright, we'll let her sit here and run for a second. Now the 40-20 always starts. And now that I said that, he left the key on. Brock! She ain't gonna start. Deader than a doornail. Ah! Key was on. Alright, well, we gotta get the charger then, because that one's not gonna move. Did I park that there? I'm pretty sure Brock moved that there, didn't he? Maybe I did. I don't know. I know he parked this one, but we had to move that stuff because they were over. Maybe I parked that one there. One's been there longer. I don't know. Anyway, the key's on, and we got to get the charger. Dang it! Or maybe the boys were playing on it and left the key on. I would have never done that when I was a kid. I'm sure it never happened. Who knows? It's not a big deal. We'll go get the charger. Oh, the jump pack. We got a jump pack. You think that'll work? It's a 12-volt system. We'll try it. Well, the lights came on. Let's see what happens. Nothing. I have two of these jump packs because one of them works and one of them doesn't. And it's not the jump pack, it's that piece. We'll switch it, try the other one. Oh! Not gonna do it. Bummer! I don't think giving it a minute. Oh, them got warm. That was fast. I don't know what that light means. High temperature. Nope, she ain't gonna go. Alright, we'll get the charger. Alright, we'll let that charge for a few minutes and it should start. Good thing we put all those electrical outlets in all over the place. Actually, no, we'd have to get it out of there. Alright. Move this one. So I've been trying to remember who parked that tractor there. I am pretty sure it was me. I'm pretty sure I parked it there. However, I know Brock parked this one because we were moving stuff when we were getting the corn planter out from over here last week. And I feel like Brock got on the 40-20 because he was going to move it at one point before I told him, no, we don't need to move that. So maybe he turned the key on and then forgot. I don't know, Brock, did you do it or was it me? Was it you or me? I don't know. All right, let's see if this one will start. Oh yeah, no trouble. Okay, it's been a few minutes. Let's kick her over to start. See if it'll start. Oh yeah, come on. Gonna need a few minutes yet. I don't know, I thought I had the throttle down to where it would start, but maybe not. It started. Of course, it was the time that I didn't film it. That's okay. Alright, let's move this tractor. We're gonna let it run for a little while, but we're gonna move it over here on the other side where the corn planter was. And we can get our bean planter out of there. Now we can move this. Watch our ILS inflate. Yeah. This tractor, the ILS settles when it sits for a long time, but as soon as you put it in gear, it front end jumps right back up to where it's supposed to be. So moving this should be fairly easily because we don't have to hook up any hydraulics or anything because we can't unfold it anyway. Other than that our wing wheels settle on this planter. I wish I could figure out how to fix that. And so, yeah, we're gonna have to be a little bit careful that we don't drag them. Got it. Like I said, those wing wheels have settled down. They do that when this planter sits for more than a couple of days. You kind of have to unfold it and rephase everything to get them picked back up. But I can't do any of that without a fold box, which I do not have. So we'll just be careful that we don't go over any big bumps, ridges that they might catch on. And we should be fine. I can back it up a little closer to the 4440 to make this turn without moving that pan in that tractor. But we should be able to get it. All right. Let's get this out and we'll get that tractor put back in and get everything reorganized in there. You see right there, it's a little close, but we made it. It'll be okay. Those are some big old paw prints. We don't have a dog anymore. Coyote's walking through. See, the problem with this tractor is you shut it off by killing the throttle. But you gotta remember to turn the key off. Otherwise the battery's dead next time you come back. I don't know if we weren't ran it long enough for it to charge up or not, but it's okay. We're done out here. Good enough. Well, Dad helped me open my hooks for me. He just got back and we got the planter in the shop. So we're gonna put this tractor back in the barn out here. I closed the door and I'll reopen it, but that's okay. Yeah, when we get the 8R back, obviously we'll have the corn planter, but we'll have the bean planter in the shop, so we're just going to finish working on that before we bring the corn planter in. We'll need that tractor to get it unfolded. We really don't need the tractor, we need the control box, the little button box right here. The new planter doesn't have one of those boxes. It's all done through the command center display, which is super nice. But this one, we still need it, so we can, like I said, we can wash a little bit, we can do some cleaning, and we can start taking off the gauge wheels and openers, at least on the row units that are on the bottom, the front rank, ones that don't fold up. And we'll see. I think my openers are coming this afternoon, so we can start working on those. All right, it is fairly clean, so I don't know that we need to wash, so that is good. But essentially, I know what we have to do is replace these blades here. Not only are they fairly worn, which we'll need to take one off and measure to see how worn they are, but we started having a bunch of bearing troubles last year. 2 years ago, we had one or two go out, and then last year Phil was changing opener blades a lot, which means there's some on here that are probably in really good shape. We'll try and identify those and keep them if we can. You should be able to tell based on how much wear's on them. I don't know where any are at right off the top of my head. But I got some different ones that have a cast hub, because what happens on them, I'll show you when we get one apart, but ew. The bearings don't actually go bad. They're in a stamped steel hub, and they just start getting loose and wiggly in there. And so the new ones that I bought actually have a cast hub. We'll see. Hopefully that'll hold them quite a bit better. It'll be a little bit better quality, but we gotta get these apart. So in order to change those, we have to take these gauge wheels off, which is this bolt, I believe. Takes those off. We've got an upgraded gauge wheel style on there with the RK products, gauge wheel repair kits. They work pretty well, but yeah, we got to take all the gauge wheels off on both sides and then take the openers off. Then we got to inspect C2 guards, see if we need to replace those and what else may be worn out that needs to be upgraded or updated on this planter. Since we're just getting this out, and I have a lot of new followers and stuff, and you guys haven't seen this since June, when we would have finished the last of the beans, or really May last year, and I don't plant a ton of beans anyway, so I don't get to run this a whole lot. But we'll just talk about the planter a little bit. This is a John Deere 1790. It is a 1632 row. And what that means is it's a 16 row on 30-inch spacings, or a 32 row on 15-inch spacing. So really it's a 32 row, 15-inch planter. So these row units that you see up in the air here, they're on a hydraulic cylinder on a rock shaft there. They fold down and split the middle of the lower rows. You can kind of see the back here. The back ones don't fold up. So essentially, this row and this row are 30 inches apart. That row and that row are 30 inches apart, but these split the middle, so you plant on the 15s. We like to plant beans on narrower spacings than corn, 15-inch rows, because they don't fill the row out as much. And with soybeans, the name of the game is capturing sunlight. You have to get that whole field to be green with no sunlight hitting the dirt as quickly as possible in order to get the best yields, hence the 15-inch rows. This is a 2011 planter, I believe. We bought it in 2011, so we've had it for quite a while. It's been a really good planter for us. We've got a few issues here and there, some minor things that are what they are. But for the most part, it plants beans, and it does it really well. Now, you may know that our corn planter that we just traded was a 2013. So this is actually older, so you may say, well, why didn't you upgrade this one instead of the corn planter? And, well, there's an argument to be made there. The best answer I can give you is there was a lot more to gain upgrading corn planters than bean planters, not just from a speed standpoint, but also from a quality of the job that we're doing. So beans are, while important that you do a good job, they're not as critical as corn. Beans will compensate for misaligned seeds, mistimed seeds, the stuff not planted perfectly. Corn will not. Once you get a corn seed off, it's off for the rest of its life, and it will never recover from it. And so would it be nice to have hydraulic downforce on a bean planter? Yeah, it'd be awesome. Would it be nice to have high-speed electric drive, exact emerge, whatever? Yeah, it'd be awesome. But it's hard to justify spending $200,000 in upgrades on a planter that's just going to plant soybeans. So that's why we did the corn planter. I would say that this is climbing the list of things that we want to upgrade in the semi-near future. 2 to 3 years out would be my guess. But it works for us. Now, the fact that this planter does do 30-inch or 15-inch rows, because you can plant with these row units folded up, not all the way up, but there's like a half stop right here that you can put in here and just leave them up a little bit, means that this planter is entirely capable of planting corn on 30-inch rows. A lot of people do that where they have one planter like this, they plant all their corn and all their soybeans with it. Now for us, one, we need two planters for the timeliness of it, because we need to be planting corn and beans at the same time just to get everything done quick enough. If you were farming half as many acres and you wanted one planter, this would do it. But the other big negative to that is this planter is outrageously heavy, like really, really heavy. And it's because look how much iron you've got, right? You got all that extra framing and rock shafts and all those row units and stuff to split those rows, which when they're in the ground and they're kind of carrying their own weight, yeah, it's still a heavy beast, but it's what you have to do the job on 15-inch rows. If you were using this for 30-inch rows and you just got all that weight just hanging there, not doing anything, just being weight, then it becomes a problem for us. You have compaction issues. It's just too much weight. It's too heavy. So we have never planted corn with this planter. It has only ever planted soybeans, and that's all we will ever use it for, but it does a really good job of planting soybeans. We do also have that air seeder, a 1990 CCS air seeder 30-footer that we use for wheat. That is perfectly capable of planting soybeans as well. The big difference between that and this for beans and why this is better, there's two big reasons. Number one, the metering system. The drills have a roller that just kind of spills beans out and then it blows it out to the row right into the ground. It's a controlled spill, I like to call it. That's kind of a, yeah. This planter has an actual vacuum plate where it is singulating out beans, sucking them up one at a time, attached to a plate, rotating it around and dropping them perfectly-ish. Much, much more accurate population, seeding rate control, spacing, singulation, much better on a planter row unit than a drill opener metering system. The other big difference is the actual row unit itself and the openers, where we have a true V opener, double disc, look at that. Look at that wavy edge. That disc is flat shot. Yeah, that's why we're putting new openers on. Anyway, you have this true V where you're actually creating a seed trench. You've got dual gauge wheels to control your depth of the dual closing wheels, coulter up front. Like, this is a very accurate way to make a seed trench and to get it to the right depth. With a drill opener unit, you have one disc that's on a little bit of an angle with a boot behind it, that the seed just kind of falls into the little slot you make behind that angled disc. And there's a single gauge wheel on it. They work. They put beans in the ground. Beans also splash out of the trench. You don't get the consistent depth control. It's just not as accurate. And so that's why we really like this planter over the air seeder for planting beans. Now that one has the advantage of 10-inch rows instead of 15s. Advantage or disadvantage, either way. Once you get below, say, 20-inch rows or 15-inch rows, I would argue that the advantage to narrower goes away. You want quick canopy closure, but you also need airflow and stuff to prevent disease, and it complicates things. There's a lot more to it than just the tighter you plant them, the better they yield. That's not exactly how it works. So anyway, that's why we're on 1790. That's our planter. We'll start working on that in a little bit, but I have a webinar meeting thing that I have to go and do at 10:30 in like 10 minutes. So we'll come back after that, probably after lunch, actually. All right, we're back from lunch. It's time to start working on a planter. So I tore the first row unit apart. You can see how bare it looks with nothing on there. And we're gonna work on this second one here. First thing we do is take off the gauge wheels, which is just this one bolt. You can see this one is still the deer style. It doesn't have that style. They're a little bit different. We can put these two. We like to test things. Yeah, anyway. Okay, get that down. Right away here, I can tell that this gauge wheel is probably going to need to get the rubber replaced on. It's breaking off here. There's a big chunk missing here. Just generally tore up. It's not horrible, but the gauge wheels act as a scraper on the seed discs, and so you want there to be a nice edge here, and that one does not have a nice edge, so likely will replace that. This one here, on the other hand, looks really good all the way around and is in good shape, so we don't need to replace that one. And I'm going to go ahead and pull the meters off, mostly just to get stuff, come on, kind of out of the way while we're working on it. These are going to have to get washed, gone through, taken apart, cleaned up, see if any of the seals in there or anything need replaced. But we're not going to mess with that right now. I'm just setting stuff back here out of the way. I also want to pull the seed tube out. That is down in here because, well, it needs cleaned really badly. Okay, so now we've got that stuff out of there. We can pop off this little plastic dust cap, get our impact. And run that off of there. Careful to not lose the nut or any of the shims that are in there. There's a little shim right there. We'll put that back on because we might need that later. And we'll put the nut back on. Okay, maybe. There we go. Now, here's one of our discs. Let's go measure it. We're right at 14 and a half on these. That's the same as what the first row that I took apart was. And this one here, the edge isn't too bad. It's still fairly not nicked up and straight, but some of them I noticed were pretty bad. Now, the new blades are 15-inch diameter, so we've worn a half an inch off, basically a quarter of an inch all the way around. The spec is to change them, according to the book, once they get to 14. Now, nobody runs them once they get to 14 and a half. Basically, if they are going to be 14 and a half or less by the end of the year, you better be changing them. So given that that's where we're starting, we're going to change them. We're not going to run these another year. So there's that one. Let's take the other side off and take a look at it. Now, very important to remember that on the left-hand side of the row units, they have left-hand nuts. So it is not lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. It is righty-loosey, which never made sense to me anyway. It's clockwise and counterclockwise. Whoever came up with left and rights for something that goes in a circle was an idiot. But whatever, I digress. It's backwards. Just know that it is backwards. You better have your gun set to tighten to take them off. And if you don't, you will in fact strip the studs out. Ask me how I know. The bearings on all the ones that I've done so far have been tight. The bearings are still good, but you don't take these things apart. I mean, you can grind those rivets off. You could get the bearing out of there. Problem is when you try and rivet them back together, a lot of times you warp the discs and then they're not straight. Phil tried to do that last year. He had some used ones that the bearings went out of, but the blades were still really good. 14 and a half, just a hair more maybe. And I tried to put them on the planer, and I could not get them adjusted even remotely close to right because the whole blade was warped because of how they tighten the rivets. And so we aren't going to mess with that. You just put new ones on. That's what you do. Okay, so this row unit is completely taken apart. Well, I shouldn't say completely. So we have this bracket on here. This is our Keaton firmer bracket. This piece right here, this kind of pushes the seed down on the bottom of the seed trench and make sure it's got good seed to soil contact. I like them, especially on this style planer. I'm not going to run them on the new style planer because I don't feel like they're necessary there. But we may want to look at these for wear, see if we need to replace these tails because they do get wear. And some of these are original to the planer and been run for 11, 12 years now. So, and then the other thing is these seed tube guards. This is the guard that the seed tube slides down in here. It prevents it from wearing, but the other function is that it keeps our blades kind of keeps them apart, keeps them from flexing together too much. And when they flex too much, when you can have bearing issues, like we have been, if there's too much wear on this side. Now, these don't look terrible to me, but we're going to get a new one and compare it and see. I think we have two different styles of seed tube guards on here anyway. To be determined yet whether we're going to replace those. So I'm going to go through. We're going to do the rest of this side right here for now and see where we're at, how things are looking. Okay, well, we've got these, what do we got? 6 done, 6 row units off. And yeah, we're definitely going to have to wash it once we get them all off of here because it's dirty. Apparently we didn't pull the seed tubes. I knew we didn't take the gauge wheels off, but sometimes we'll pull the meters and the seed tubes out in the summer when we're washing and can get that cleaned up better. But we did not, so there's dirt, so it needs cleaned up. That's all right. I'm going to go see in our parts bin if we have a new these seed tube guards to have one to compare it to. depending on which angle I look at them from, sometimes I think like that one there right now looks really worn to me, but then other ones I look at and they seem to have a pretty square shoulder to them. I'm like, well, those aren't worn. Let's see if we got a new one. Right here is a brand new one. So if I hold that up to that edge, my camera will focus. Is that significant enough wear? Probably. Actually, that seems like quite a bit of wear. Yeah. We'll look at them a little bit more. Maybe I should get my calipers out to be more accurate. But I feel like there's quite a bit worn off of the sides of those. So the old one here is wore down to about 3/4 of an inch. And when I attempted to do that to the new one, we were somewhere around 15/16 right there. So we've worn about 3/16 of an inch off. I think that's significant wear. I believe we have a different style on the other side of the planter, so we're going to keep working our way across until we get to those rows and see if those are worn any different, any better, any worse. Maybe OEM replacements aren't the way to go here. Now, typically, OEM is the expensive parts, right? And, well, they are. However, when it comes to planter stuff and accessories, generally the aftermarket third-party stuff, while better, is much more expensive. Seed tube guards are one of those things. I was looking at them yesterday, the day before, just because I wasn't sure if we had to replace them on this planter or not. And like the OEM ones are like $14 a row unit, or per. You can buy aftermarket ones that are 40. They're 3 or 4 times the cost. So, yeah, we'll see how the other ones wore. If they're not significantly better, we'll probably put the cheap OEM ones back on. All right, I found something semi-interesting, but it's a little difficult for me to explain. So, do you see how there's 2 holes there on that hitch, and they're offset from each other? That hole there, the one that we're not using, is in the middle. This one over here is offset 7.5 inches. Now, the reason for that is because this is a 1632 row, not a 31, which means it's unbalanced, okay? So there's on a 31 row, you would not have this row out here on the end. This one would be the first one, that one on the bottom would be the last one, and there would only be 15 on the top or the back instead of 16. Because of that extra row there, that 16th row, it makes our swath width on 15-inch rows a full 40 foot instead of would be what, 38 3/4 of a foot if you were planting 15-inch rows. Otherwise, you'd have a wide row there, right? Anyway, by shifting this hitch over 7.5 inches, what that does is keep the planter tractor in the center of the planter, because the tongue is not actually in the center of the row units, because we're offset 15 inches to one side. There's an extra row on the left side of the planter than on the right side. And so you have to offset half of that distance to stay in the center. What that does is make your tire tracks offset a little bit from where your rows are as well, the tractor tires. So on my corn planter, and if you were using the center hole, the other hole on the tongue, the tractor tracks would follow directly in front of the mainframe tires. But we're setting that tractor over 7.5 inches, which means that it's actually hitting this row, because the tractor tires are wider than these, plus you throw 7.5 inches in, and we're right on the edge of this row. So that row and that row are both planting into a tractor tire track. Now, all of that is to tell you there was more wear on these openers. I've got them on the bench. You remember all of the ones we've done so far were like 14.5. This one is like 14.1/8. Maybe 3/16 if you're generous. So, what that tells me, our tractor is causing compaction. We're planting into it. The ground is harder. It's causing more wear on all of our components. It's harder to get the seed in the ground. It takes more down pressure. It takes more, you're wearing stuff faster. So that's why we typically set those rows a notch deeper to keep the beans in the ground, because our openers are worn more. So every notch on our depth adjustment, this T-handle here, right? So this is how we control our depth. And if I move it like this, essentially this row is going to plant 1/4 of an inch deeper than this row, just by turning that handle 1 notch. Well, if our openers are 1/2 inch smaller than the other ones on the total diameter, that means that there's 1/4 of an inch gone on each side, so we're going to be planting 1/4 inch shallower than the rows next to it, which means this needs to be running a notch deeper. That's why we do that. Anyway, interesting. So these are totally worn out. Now, as we talked about earlier, you can plant corn with this planter, and the last thing you want to do is plant corn into a tire track like that and cause issues and have extra compaction. Hence the reason there's another hole there, because if you're only using the 16 mainframe rows, right, you're not using that one out there, then the tongue is in the center of the planter and you want to be using that one. So you should move that back and forth depending on if you're doing 7.5 or 15 or 30 inch rows. Again, we've never planted 30 inch rows with this. We've never moved it, but if you were using it for both crops, they make provisions for that. That's why it's there. Well, these rows up here are the ones that are a real pain on this planter. Now, the other style of planter that Deere makes that's 15-inch row planter units like this is called a 1780, and their rows are all kind of they're staggered in within each other a little bit more. Much harder to work on than this one, but there's 2 or 3 or 4 rows right here kind of underneath that are a real pain to get to. But I got the gauge wheel off on that one, and we've got another problem that we have to address. See that? Either the bearing's going out or something's bent or something's loose, because that's a problem. So that gauge wheel is going to have to get taken apart and either a new bearing put in or figure out why it's like that. Maybe it just needs tightened up. I don't know, but we can't have that. Oh, I got those difficult middle rows done. We got one done out here. And I can show you easily that different style of seed tube guard, and you can see this is a much more substantial design. It's a lot thicker, a lot beefier, a lot more metal there. It's got replaceable wings here. I don't know, maybe different applications with liquid or something. I don't know exactly. Now, how do we tell if that's too worn? I don't know. Doesn't look bad. There is somewhere on the sides, but it doesn't look terrible, so we'll have to dig into that one a little bit. I don't have a new one of these to be able to compare it to. Okay, I got, I think, 3 more to do, but our openers are here on a freight truck. We gotta get the forklift and get him unloaded. Oh, it's a big old box. There's a lot of stuff in there. Oh boy. Well, here's what we got. Now, well, we'll get our tape measure on there, but I'm sure these are 15 inches. They're 3.5 millimeters thick. They've got a nice bevel on them, but here is the difference. Right here. This piece is cast in bigger, thicker rivets. I think they're 5/16 rivets instead of 1/4 inch rivets or something like that. And that cast bearing holder instead of the stamped steel one. We'll go look at the other one and compare them, but hopefully that will solve our bearing issues and we won't have them getting loose in there. They also sent me a whole bag full of new shims, of washers or thick shims, whatever those are for. Now those might be for closing wheels. And look at this, steel caps instead of these little chintzy plastic ones that we've been taking off. So impressive. Also want to give a shout out to these guys. I'm not sponsored at all by Shoop, but I ordered these yesterday morning. Here they are. Impressive. 15 new, right on. And this last one was measuring 14.5, but we'll just set it on there for comparison purposes. About like that, so you can see we've gotten this edge worn off all the way around. This one actually was less wear than most of them. But here's that hub. You can see it's a stamped steel as opposed to this cast. Should be more rigid here. It should be better. Now there is another brand. These, Shoop doesn't really tell you what brand. I don't know if they're their own or what does that say. USA. That's good. there's this, I don't even know how you sell it. It's a French brand, Forge de Noix something, that makes really good planter openers. I've heard really good things of them. They cost twice as much as these. Like this was about $2 more than OEM stamped versus cast hub. Shoop does have a stamped hub that was $3 or $4 less than OEM. But I thought this was worth it for the extra quality. Those other brand, which I'll show you a flyer for them, double the price of these. This brand, I've heard very good things about these. They have some with a steel hub, some with a cast, a few different styles. I asked about them yesterday. Actually, the place where we got our Landau disc blades sells these, and they had them. I said, how much are they? Double. They're double the cost. You guys can feel free to leave guesses. I have the entire front rank of openers disassembled. We've got all the row units here, basically all the even rows, 32 through 2. Gauge wheels, seed tubes here, they all need washed, cleaned before we put back on the planter. We've got some gauge wheels that need rubbers replaced. We've got some that need bearings at least tightened, if nothing else. And we've got to wash all these shanks before we put them back on. I think I've decided that these seed tube guards are good. The other ones need replaced. So, do I replace them with OEM? Same style that's on there and do them again the next time we put blades on, or do we buy the better style so we don't have to replace them every time? They would have to last 3 to 1 to be worth it price wise, but do they do a better job? Noticeable difference? Probably not. So I don't know, we're still figuring that out. Remember when I said that we like to experiment with stuff and we kind of do a couple rows at a time type of thing? Well, you'll notice, remember I said we had these RK Products kits on here. Most of the planter has these. From here to that way, though, has this style. This is still an RK kit, RK Products gauge wheel arm repair kit or whatever that does the same thing, just a different style. These rows we bought first. We bought these 1 year to try them, to see how we liked them, to see if they worked well, and put them on. And we did. They do work well. We did like them. So the next year we bought more to put on the rest of them. In the meantime, that company got bought out by Copperhead Ag. They re-engineered, redesigned, got this bolt style instead of this square-headed style, because this is extremely difficult to manufacture, as you can imagine. And so they're different, but they're the same thing. That's part of our trial stuff. Also, you'll notice these two Keaton brackets are different. These ones have gotten replaced at some point. I would assume not too long ago, but I'm not sure. With this quick attach style bracket, just a different. And if we updated, these would all have to get changed to this style. But now is the time to do it because it has to be done while the disc openers are off. So my buddy sells those, so Precision Planting Products, so I'm gonna go talk to him and see if he's got one that we can compare to, what he thinks, if he can get them. We have to count how many we're gonna need, somewhere close to 30, and we'll go from there. You'll also notice, again, we like to experiment, we've got one cast spiked closing wheel on there. The rest are all cast smooth factory, except for that one is poly spiked, like what I run on the corn planter, or had on the old corn planter. That's basically the cast version of it. Phil never seemed to think there was enough of an advantage to justify putting them on the rest of the planter, so we never did, but he left those on there and we've been running them. So yeah, I don't think we're going to do anything with closing wheels other than check bearings and make sure everything's tight. You'll notice these brackets have a different style, so I think, oh, we got to pull the seed tube. Oh, I didn't take this opener or this unit apart. Guess I'm not quite done. This one though should, yeah, it comes right off of there. There is definitely some wear, but not nearly as much as those other ones because there's so much material there. So those, I'm going to measure it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to run them again. Well, it is 4 o'clock. So before I can start putting anything back together on this planter, which that half with the good seed tube guards we could do, I'm going to talk to Phil. I don't know what to do about this side, whether we put deer ones on there or get the other ones. I don't know. Anyway, before we can put it back together, we need to wash stuff. And since it's 4 o'clock and that's about all I could do today, I'm going to get the power washer out. We're going to just wash this area, trying to get this dirt out and the stuff down in there so that that's cleaned up. It'll dry out overnight, and then we can start reassembling a little bit of it maybe tomorrow. Oh, we got some dirt off. All right. Yeah, there's a bunch on the floor. This was clean when I brought it in here. Remember, I cleaned the floor before we brought it in. So all that dirt on the floor is the stuff that I just got off. So I feel all pretty good. We'll let the moisture move out of here and everything dry off overnight. And we'll get back to work on it tomorrow. I didn't even make Brock do the power washing. I'm not saying there won't be some for him there, but I didn't even make him do it today. I don't know when Brock's coming back, so I gotta keep moving on this. I don't have time for him to do it one day a week. It'll take forever. I'm gonna have to actually do something. All right, everybody. Well, for the foreseeable future, this is what we're going to be working on. I am hoping to have it out of here by the end of next week. That may seem like a long time, but we've got a fair bit to do, and I am not very good at sitting down and just working on something continuously. I kind of bounce all over the place when it gets to projects like this because it's repetitive and boring. And so we'll do our best and try and keep it moving through the shop here and get it done, but no guarantees on that. Now, I am heading for home because it is after 5 o'clock and it's time for me to go home. So have a great night. I do have a meeting with some people tomorrow afternoon, so we'll work on this some. We'll do that. We'll see what else is going on. One more thing before we do go, though. If you don't know, today, or this week, not today, this whole week is National FFA Week. And if you're not familiar with FFA, look it up. It's a great organization for the youth in agriculture. It is something that was near and dear to my heart, as I was not only an active participant in FFA in high school, but I was served as a Michigan FFA state officer. Let's see the picture. And I try and do as much as I can to support the organization today as I can. So I don't have any specific action items for you to do. If you feel like making a donation to a great organization, find your local FFA chapter, your state association, the national FFA organization. Any one of those are worthy recipients of support, funding, volunteer hours, all of that kind of stuff. But what I would like you to do is, if you were an FFA member or you have some stories of an FFA and how you support it, leave it in the comments below. And I'd love to read about all that. So anyway, thanks for watching this one. Like, subscribe, questions and comments, and we will see you again tomorrow. I don't know if Brock's coming this week or not, but maybe we'll see him tomorrow. Probably not. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. I don't know, but he can work on a planner too. So anyway, see you, everybody.